let's talk paint pots. I did try really hard to get this video down to under about 15 minutes, but I did waffle quite a bit, so it's gone on a little bit longer, but I hope you enjoy it and get some information out of it. Thank you very much. Paint pots everywhere. We got loads of paint pots. There are loads of paint pots out there. Absolutely loads. We have Vallejo do an awesome dropper bottle. Steve Weapon do a really good dropper bottle. You've got the scale color dropper bottles. You've got the Pro Acryl kind of squeezy one. This isn't Pro Acryl, but this is a type of lid that the Pro Acryls have. You got the Dark Star ones, which are a very pointy dropper bottle. So you got all sorts of these pots out there for your paints. The kind of the ones which get the most stick, and rightly so, in my opinion, are the Citadel ones. The Citadel ones also have this little lip at the back. It's not on this one. There we go. It's on this one. And they also have this little lip on the back for. I guess that it's so that when you open the paint pot, it kind of holds it a little bit, so you can clip it. But then it ends up getting caught underneath the lid, and then the lid doesn't close. So I would. If I were you, just grab a pair of clippers and just clip it off if you do use the Citadel ones. Now, the Citadel paint pots are notorious for not keeping the paint wet. So everybody who has been using Citadel paint pots, I'm sure, has opened up their paint pots like this one, and it's just unusable. This one is just medium now. It's all coagulated down at the bottom. Same with this one. If you have a look at the Hashut copper, metallics are notorious for separating, and that is now, again, that's just medium, so that's not going to particularly get saved or anything. I might see if I can at some point. Interestingly, the paint pots before the current Citadel range are actually really nice. I found this one in my paint drawer just before I started doing the video. And it's a lovely colour, and also the paint is absolutely fine inside. So there's some things that you want from your paint pot, and all of them pretty much have pluses and minuses to them. The biggest minuses are the Citadel ones, because you come to the paint pot after 2 months and the paint's dried up and you can't use it, and you have to go and buy another one. So that's really frustrating. Now, because of that, the community as a whole tend to talk about repotting, and they will repot into something like this. This is a vape bottle, but these ones are have just as many issues as well. So the dropper bottles, the main issue with dropper bottles is that the paint will dry in the tip. So you'll have to then grab some of your airbrush cleaning pointy bits. I don't know what they're called, really. Little airbrush cleaning sticks, or whatever you want to call them, and push the dried paint back inside. You can see how many takes it's taken me to record this video, because I've already done it. So you'll have to push the dried paint that's in the nib back inside, so that you can get some fresh paint out. And that is a overriding theme on most of the dropper bottles. I'm sure some of you have tried to squeeze out a dropper bottle onto a wet palette, only for it to just splurge out at the last minute because the pressure's got too high and it's just like knocked out a little bit of the dried paint. The Vallejo ones have this annoying habit of once you've shaken them, the pressure inside gets so high that once you've taken the top off, you'll get a little bit of squirt out of the out of the nozzle for the Vallejo ones, and then you end up with this absolute mess. Now, fortunately, for things like Vallejo Model Color Black, I use this so much it doesn't really get a chance to dry on the nozzle and dry out and clog up. But regularly, I will just get a little bit of tissue paper and just clean the nozzle on that. The scale color ones actually have an even worse issue, because they've got this. They have a rubber, slightly more rubber nozzle on their dropper bottles, and there we go. We've got a decayed one here, and they split. Oh, this one's. Let me get a little bit of tissue paper so I can show you. We'll clean that nozzle. So we'll clean this out and then we can show you. So because the scale color ones, when you buy a scale color, they come with the nozzle clogged up, so you have to drill a hole in. I've done all sorts of different drilling to see if I can stop them splitting, but they end up splitting. And then when you're squeezing the paint out, if there's any dry paint in the nozzle, then it will squirt out of the side, or it will squirt out and you'll get like a big blob. So the scale color ones are probably the worst dropper bottles. I have, for a lot of my favourite scale colour ones, you'll have seen me repot them in some of my videos, so they have started getting repotted, and we'll show those in a little while. The Vallejo metal colour, I don't know why they do this. So for a lot of the airbrush stuff, they've got these little nozzles with like a moat around the bottom. Like this, so they have a little moat around the nozzle, so as you're pouring them into your airbrush, it's one thing that dropper bottles are very good for. You can get them into the airbrush very easily. The moat will fill up, and then you'll end up pouring the paint out of the moat, and it will go all down the side of the lid, and you'll get it all down the side, and you'll get it covered in your hands. It's a nightmare. I don't know, I hate these ones. These ones are absolutely terrible. They're a nightmare to work with. If I could repot this into something, I probably would. But yeah, this kind of nozzle just doesn't work. They're one of my least favourite dropper bottle styles. The Secret Weapon ones, unfortunately, you can't get Secret Weapon paints anymore. They've gone out of business, which is very sad because I do like the paints. They're very thin, so you can do a lot of cool effects with them, which is why a lot of them are called like Orange Rust and Red Rust and green verdigris and things. So some really nice thin paints. But these ones have got a conical nozzle, which again you can see the paint has started to dry up in there as well. So these ones are also very bad for drying. In the tip, what else have we got? We also have, so one of the paints that we don't really get to see and talk about very much is the artist acrylics, which come in tubes. These ones are very interesting to use. You need to thin them down because they are obviously they're very thick, medium. They haven't got a lot of medium in them, if any, really. So it's just pigments. So one thing I tend to do with these, if you are using them, I tend to get them out of the lid. So I'll get my brush and grab some out of the lid and put it on the wet palette. Rather than putting it on the wet palette directly, because then you can see it here, it's just started to kind of creep over the thread if you put it on the wet palette directly. But some of my favourite ones, the old Citadel round and then hexagonal paint pots were absolutely fantastic. If anybody remembers using them, you'll know they were very, very airtight, because you would regularly ruin your thumbnail trying to open them. But this is a 1990s paint. It does look, I mean, it's still wet in there. I think I think these paints had quite a high level of medium in there. If I had a proper look at this, yeah, I might find a little bit of coagulated paint down at the bottom, some pigments that have settled at the bottom, because this is looking very, very medium heavy. But I could certainly paint with it. It would be really, really nice. And that leads us on to some of my new favourite paint pots, which are the P3 paint pots. And they still use them. This is the paint pots that you used to be able to get Citadel paints in back in the very, very early 90s, before they went to the hexagonal ones. And these are great paint pots. And I've managed to find somewhere which sells them empty, so I can get. I've got loads and loads and loads of just empty paint pots now, which I just repot everything into, and they're fantastic. They open a little bit easier than the hexagonal ones. You get a little bit of mess around the lid where it dries around the seal, but they do dry. They do seal really well. It's probably not a best example because it's a metallic. There we go. There we go. So they have the little reservoir at the top that you can grab your paint out of. Have the little reservoir at the top that you can grab your paint out of. They don't dry out. They've got a nice seal on them, and they've got a good wide access as well, so you can get your paintbrush in there if you're needing a lot for your wet palette or for your airbrush, for instance. So a lot of mine are now getting repotted into these. Even, in fact, some of the Vallejo paints, so this is model colour ivory, so a lot of my Vallejo paints are now getting repotted into these as well, and they're just fantastic. Again, I'll give it a quick shake. There we go. There we go. So yeah, these are my favourites. They seal very well. The clarity through them, they're mostly clear. They're probably 5% opaque, so they're mostly translucent, so that you can see through them. Some of the secret weapon paints are a little bit more opaque, so you can't quite see what colour you're getting. Same with some of the Citadel ones; it's not quite that colour. But oh, we do have some Army Painter as well. So the Army Painter paint pots. I don't have. I have used some, but I haven't got any of the actual paint left. But the Army Painter, because they're very heavily pigmented, the Army Painter ones do tend to dry a little bit more quickly up at the nozzle as well. But yeah, there we go. We have an awful lot of paint pots. I think the main reason why repotting has become such a fad and such a thing is just simply because the Citadel paints are so bad. And the dropper bottles are incredibly easy to get hold of. You can get hold of these like little vape bottles for peanuts on eBay and Amazon, and also some of the slightly larger ones. I've used some larger paint pots to repot things into as well in the past. And I do repot as often as I can with the Citadel, because I don't want to have a paint which I don't use very often, but when I do get around to wanting to use it, I don't want to get to it and pop it open and it's all dried up. So I tend to repot my Citadels as soon as I've got them. As soon as you've opened them, obviously they start drying out slowly. Once you let some air in there, if they're sealed, they do kind of last a little bit longer. So as soon as I grab them, and I also check on their racks as well, I make sure that they've not sat there for a long time and they've got coagulated and separated paint at the bottom. So I try to get a good paint pot from Games Workshop when I do grab them, and then they do get repotted pretty quickly. Now, when I am repotting, you will hear in this one. So I've even done some of the decayed metal, some of the scale colour stuff. You will hear the little ball bearing in there. Now, you can use stainless steel ball bearings. I would suggest using stainless steel ball bearings if you're well, no, I wouldn't suggest using stainless steel ball bearings. I would suggest using glass ones. Stainless steel ones, it's very difficult to get very high quality stainless steel ball bearings because they're just ball bearings. So they will still rust a little bit in your paint. So the glass ones are the safer bet, and these ones are from a BB gun. So you can get 6mm glass ball bearings from a BB gun. You can get them pretty easily. I think that was £5 on eBay for 250. This is my second one. So I sell repotting kits on my website, so I haven't used 200. I haven't repotted 250 paints. I do sell repotting kits. So the repotting kits on my website, they used to be these ones. They are now my new favourite pots. So you can grab 5 of these in a little repotting kit, and it comes with 5 ball bearings as well. So. But yeah, if you're gonna repot and you're gonna use some little ball bearings to go in, use some glass ball bearings so they won't react with the paint. And I would also drop a little bit of thinner in there as well, just to helps get the last little bit of paint out. And that's one of the easy things about repotting into these, is that you've got a nice big open well, a nice big opening to get to pour the paint into. It's very, very good. Right, so yes, I think that's everything that I wanted to talk about. I was trying to get this video in under 15 minutes. I think we've got it. The first take was about 25 minutes. I did waffle an awful lot in the first take, but yeah, there's all all the paint pots out there. The Dark Star ones we haven't spoken about. I got gifted this one actually. But again, they have the same problem of the paint drying in the nozzle. It's not too bad, and they also have a very quite an opaque pot as well, so you can't quite see what colour it is. In terms of getting paint out of these for an airbrush, I also like. I kind of prefer getting the paint out of these and putting them in my airbrush as well. I know people like squeezing and putting like 1 drop, 2 drop, but you can be very, very precise when you're grabbing the paint out of here. You can get your brush and get exactly how much you want. So I do like give the paint a shake, pop it open, and you can grab it out of the reservoir up at the top, the little paint shelf. So I do like grabbing paint for the airbrush out of these ones as well over the dropper bottles. The dropper bottles, of course, you have to make sure they're clean, because you don't want to. I've had that a few times, squirting into the airbrush, and you just get loads of paint in there, and then you have to clean all the airbrush out because you don't want that much paint. So yeah, I hope that's been helpful. I wanted to try to get through as many paint pot types as I could, and also like a little bit of where this repotting fad has come from, and also why repotting into dropper bottles is like the community standard, if you like. It's just, I think it's literally just because they're the easiest paint pots that you can get. But I have luckily found a source for these. So if you do want some of these, they are available on my website. Grab little repotting kits. I'll put the link down below. I'm not expecting you all to go out and grab some, but they are there if you want them. And yeah, thank you very much. If you have any more questions, I'm on Twitch all the time, so you can find me on Twitch, twitch.tv/Chris Frostin. You can drop me any questions on Twitter or Instagram. Same thing, Chris Frostin, on Twitter and on Instagram. I'm dead easy to find. And I hope you have a really good weekend. Let me know what you're all painting and what paint pots are your favourites. Let's open that can of worms. Take care, everybody. Thank you very, very much. And I will see you next time for the next video. I don't know what it's going to be, but it will probably be something about Inquisitors, because the Inquisitorial kill team is looking rather good. Right. I'm going to do another video. I've got some painting to do, so I'll see you at the next one. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.